As several of you know, my parents many months ago brought me up. My understanding is they brought me up as a prayer request, and specifically towards one of the short-term mission trips that I was going on with Sert Ministries. And you guys were wonderful enough to open your hearts and generously, even your wallets, to help pay for, to fund my travel to be part of Sert Ministries, which I'm extremely thankful for. And in another show of generosity, Pastor John has allowed me to get up here and kind of just give a little bit more information about the ministry. So bear with me, I'm not a public speaker, so I'm not going to wow you with any of that. But I do want to tell you a little bit about Sert Ministries and what the ministry does. Sert stands for Search, Evangelize, Rescue, and Train. The team is made up of Marines, pastors, law enforcement, grandmothers, children, waitresses, plumbers, athletes, from all walks of life. And really what Sert does is it serves to fill the gap, be the bridge between law enforcement and the church when dealing with human trafficking and the people, the lost, the victims of human trafficking. Oftentimes, law enforcement, I'm retired law enforcement myself, and so I love those guys. Law enforcement's often bound to act where a case is legally prosecutable. And that's kind of the threshold that they have in order to act on maybe a rescue or something, is whether they can prosecute this. Sert, on the other hand, really focuses on the victim. It's not about the prosecution, it's about rescuing the victim. This past February, shortly after the prayer requests, I went down to be a part of what's called the Big Search in Las Vegas with Sert Ministries, and at the Big Search, we closed 22 cases. One of those was a pregnant teenage mother from another country who had been a victim of trafficking and was abused to the point where she almost died. And the team was able to relocate this woman and her child with a small church congregation a couple of states over who simply opened up their hearts and brought her in and loved on her child, something that she hadn't experienced. And she's done really well. Her and her child and her baby have been able to thrive there. Just last month, I found out that she married a member of that congregation since then. Another 17-year-old female one of the cases that we worked on, a young lady who has been out on the streets since, unfortunately, she witnessed her own mother's death at the hands of somebody else when she was 12 years old. And this young lady was sold from Los Angeles to Chicago to Phoenix and back to Las Vegas. She was a victim of such horrendous abuse that she was hesitant to even take the help that we offered her out of fear of retribution. And this became one of those situations where we were so worried about her because she was almost 18. She was only months away from being an adult, and because of that, Child and Protective Services was not willing to initiate the process to get her in the system, get her some help, and get her off the streets. And so as a ministry, we really pulled our resources from other cases to work on her, to leave the 99 and go after the one. And through God's grace, the ministry was able to get her on the last day of our search off the streets and into a faith-based program where she continues to thrive to this day. So that was wonderful. So real quick, some statistics on human trafficking. There are 40 million slaves in the world today. Less than 1% will ever see any form of freedom. 1 in 4 of them is a child. The average age of a child first being trafficked is 10 years old. 2/3 of runaways are contacted by a recruiter within 48 hours. The sad reality is that illicit drugs can be bought and used once, but a child can be bought and sold over and over and over again. that 10-year-old part hits me. I've got a 9-year-old daughter here. The truth is, sex trafficking is not just the way we see it maybe on movies, an American girl on spring break in Europe that gets kidnapped, or just human smuggling across the southern border. It certainly does exist that way, but it also exists in every community in our country, including this one. It exists as forced labor, prostitution, and pornography. The United States is the biggest trafficker of our own populace. The truth is, human trafficking is able to thrive despite our best efforts of law enforcement because we kind of refuse to accept it for what it is. Pornography is usually the first contact most people have with trafficking. And that addiction often leads to the purchasing of people, of humans. And while pornography and prostitution are almost always billed as voluntary acts, many victims have escaped that world to discuss the manipulation that kept them there, the emotional and mental abuse, and the brutal violence that was used to propel them to submit. And it exists because these girls have been told a lie. They've been told that their identity lies in their situation rather than the forgiving blood of Jesus Christ. And this is really where it's missed by law enforcement. Law enforcement can rescue these people. They can rescue these children, these young ladies. They can get them out of the program, but as long as they have that God-shaped hole in their heart, unless it's filled with God, it's going to be filled with something else that's not good. And the truth is, law enforcement's not going to evangelize to these girls. That's just not something they can expect. Still, many people believe this is the responsibility of law enforcement, but the truth is, in James 1:27, it says, "Religion that is pure and undefiled before God the Father is this, to visit the orphans and widows in their affliction, and to keep oneself unstained from the world." Human trafficking has become a popular cause over recent years. There's a lot of celebrity-led awareness campaigns. Perhaps you've seen them. People change their profile on social media, or they put a red X on their hand. But I believe that girl who is locked in a shed and abused, I don't believe that she goes to bed at night praying that society will become aware of this tragedy. What she's praying for is that God will send somebody through that door to take her home. So how does the church get involved? In Deuteronomy 14:29, it says, "The sojourner, the fatherless, and the widow who are within your towns shall come and eat and be filled, that the Lord your God may bless you in all the work of your hands that you do." And in Deuteronomy 10:18, it says, "He ensures that orphans and widows receive justice. He shows love to the foreigner living among you and gives them food and clothing." So people often ask about what Sert's aftercare program is. And the truth is, Sert Ministries doesn't really have an aftercare program. We believe that the church is the aftercare program that God set up. It's already our responsibility as the church to be there for the hurt and the lost. And I believe it's the role of the church to come together and share the responsibilities needed to get these people, these young ladies that we call princesses, back on their feet while being surrounded by the love of Jesus Christ. So perhaps you have a spare bedroom in your home, a mother-in-law attic above your garage. Maybe you have the ability to put one of these young ladies to work at a steady job, or to help her with the transportation to get to that job. Maybe you've got room in your daycare program for her kids while she goes to rehab. And that's what I was hoping to share with you, is that need in this fight against the trafficking. The process is not easy. It's not pretty. Many of these folks have been in months and years of terrible abuse and addiction. But just like Jesus cared for those on the fringes of society, so should the church. Excuse me. So ultimately my invitation to you is I ask you to pray without ceasing as to how we can be the church, how you can be the church, how we can be the hands and feet. And And I ask for nothing else, from you other than to genuinely open your hearts and give it to God and see if there is a place for you to be part of this aftercare program for these young ladies. And I don't know what that necessarily looks like because I don't know what the next girl's situation looks like. But as a church community, we have the ability to come around somebody in the worst times of their life and offer them support and offer them love and to show Jesus to them and help them to see that their identity lies in Jesus and not in the terrible events of their past. That's all that I have for you, other than we're gonna share a video from a case that my wife and I were blessed to be a part of. And I'll leave it at that. If anybody wants to talk to me afterwards, you're welcome to. There's also a pamphlet that was put in your bulletin. One thing you'll hear in this, some radio traffic when you hear them say the word Geronimo. That's our code word for the rescue. The girl has been rescued. So I'll leave that to the video. Thank you.
January 15th, our daughter Sarah Dunsey was abducted from Las Vegas, Nevada. She's being held against her will, and Sarah is a victim of sex trafficking. This is my absolute worst nightmare. We need Sarah home. We have to have her home. I cannot wonder where she is and if she's safe. Please help us find her. Sarah Barra, this message is for you. I want you to fight because I need you. All of us need you. The world needs you, so fight, okay? We're coming to get you. That's it.
Any station, be advised, we are at location.
10-4. We are on scene as well.
Target vehicle is back in location with 2 occupants.
Who's inside the vehicle?
We couldn't get a description, but there are 2 occupants.
Is the other Passat still on scene?
Yes, it's still in the same spot.
All units be advised, PD is en route.
Roger, solid copy. Vic 2 is en route back to target location.
10-4, just go ahead and get eyes on. Don't interrupt anything. Also be advised, I am in Baz's car and will be Vic 3.
Vic 1, copy all.
Roger, solid copy on all.
Shepard is with the PD.
Roger, solid copy.
Vic 3 on scene.
Copy.
Vic 2 on location with eyes on target vehicle.
10-4.
Sert Talk, this is Alpha 1 en route.
10-4. Sert actual, radio check.
I got Chilling Charlie.
RP just advised the mom that the girl's name is Janet, which is known as her alias. Also confirmed apartment 20.
Vic 2 has eyes on PD on station.
10-4.
Hey, units, Geronimo, package in tow.
Vic 2 copies Geronimo package in tow.
Vic 1, copy. Geronimo, package in tow.
10-4, praise God.
Vic 2 has eyes on black and whites leaving the location, standing by.
Hello?
Amy, we have her.
Oh.
She's She's with the LAPD at the Wilshire Division. Keep heading. Be safe. She's safe.
She's safe, Amy.
She's good. She's safe. Praise God.
God is good, Amy.